Hello everybody and welcome back to another Jake's RC Stuff video, and today I'm going to be showing you some of the most fun you can have for just £100 in the form of this 3-inch mini quad. This is the Diatone, which I only know of from previously being a cheap home phone manufacturer. This is the Diatone GT R349, sometimes referred to as the Rabbit, which I first saw for a UAV Futures video. Now, from limited videos I have seen, they seem a bit of a wow, everything is amazing, thanks for sending it to us, insert company name here. But from what I saw from the video, and the way it flew, and the fact that they managed to clock it at 118 miles an hour, I thought, for the money, I would spend my own money and give it a go. Now, to put it into perspective, this is not my first racing quad or mini quad or whatever you want to call it, but my last mini quad was a X-Hover MXP230 with a Naze 32. So yeah, pretty old school. So the Diatone GT R349 is a 3-inch class mini quad racer that's pretty much ready to rock out of the box. It is a custom 6mm thick carbon frame. It comes with four 1408 4000 kV motors. It has a all-in-one 4x25 amp D-Shot ESC, an F405 mini flight controller with a built-in OSD running Betaflight, not base flight like I was used to. And for the FPV side, because it does come with all the FPV stuff, it comes with a Runcam Micro Swift, which are £25 on their own, bought separately, with either a Runcam video transmitter, or for an extra £50 you can get a TBS one, but fuck TBS, so I went for the Runcam one. Now, in the box, as well as the quad itself, you do get 4 propellers. I'll go into a little bit more detail on those later. 4 Nylock prop nuts, a bag containing smaller things like Velcro and way too many cable ties for some reason, and all 3 canopies. Now, Banggood does make you choose a canopy cover when you're purchasing it, but you get all 3 in the box, so it really doesn't matter which one you get. And speaking of website weirdness, there is next to no info at all on Banggood's website on what you need to finish this quad and recommended parts and things like that. And the box does come with a card saying that there's only one official Diatone website, yet on a sticker in the box it tells you to get the manual from a different website, which I couldn't find, and it's all just a little bit weird and all sort of loads of redirecting links and God knows what's going off over there. I would recommend getting some spare props, as though I haven't broken any yet. You do only get 4 in the box. Again, no information on Banggood's side about what it is, but after a lot of research and sort of looking at pictures and things, the props that you need are the Gemfan Flash 3052R. I believe it's R on the end. I don't have it in my information here, but I believe it's 3052R. It'll be linked in the description anyway. And I actually bought 5 extra bags of 4 for £2.13 a pack. In beautiful pink, as opposed to the translucent colours that the quad came with. And what you will need to complete this machine is a 4-cell capable balancing LiPo charger. I have a vast selection of different ones scattered about the place. This is one that I use for charging at home. It's a 4-way reactor quad core from Hobby King. Way overkill for this, but I do deal with a lot bigger batteries as well. You're also going to need a 5-channel minimum radio system. I end up using 6 channels with mine, and the radio that I'm using is actually a FreeSky X7S in this lovely fetching blue, and the R9 long range module. The normal FreeSky 2.4 will be fine, but I was just using what equipment I had to hand. For the receiver, I'm using an R9 Mini running the Flex firmware with the upgraded antenna, which, as you can see, I just have tied wrapped to the bottom of the frame. I've also put some heat shrink around the actual PCB to make sure no moisture gets in there as well. For the battery, it's going to be a 4-cell, right? You're not going to wuss out and get a 3-cell on this. In terms of the C rating, you want at least 65C. The OSD has told me that the max it's being pulled is 32 amps, so 45C on an 1000 mAh battery would technically be enough, but in order to deal with the punch on things, you want basically as high a C rating as you can get. Definitely a minimum of 65. And again, capacity wise, I would recommend something between 850 and 1000 milliamps. 850 is the best for performance, but you only get a very tiny amount of performance loss and a longer flight time with 1000 milliamps. My battery of choice for this is actually Hobby King's Graphene 1000 milliamp 4-cell 75C, the new sort of green and black ones. 75C. They were £18 each with a discount code from Honey. Again, see the description on how Honey works. and flight times are about 3.5 minutes, sometimes slightly longer. Okay, so getting this quad actually ready for flying. Now, on the actual quad itself, you get 2 plugs, one with a 5-volt positive, negative, and S-bus. That connector, I believe, is like for an X4 FreeSky. It's for some sort of FreeSky 2.4 receiver, which I wasn't using. And the other connector you get is just a black and red wire, which I presume is to power something. I didn't plug it into anything, didn't test it, so I honestly don't know. Don't go plug it into things and getting upset when it pops them. I just took it out of the way on mine. The R9 Mini receiver I had already had pins on it when I flashed it with the Flex firmware, so I desoldered my temporary servo wire, cut the connector off for the S-bus positive and negative on my quad, and then soldered the wires to the plus, minus, and S-bus pins on my receiver, and this was a ball ache, to say the least. The wires are very thin and quite cheap and nasty, to be brutally honest. It's my main gripe with this, and considering what you've done, it's done, is very good. It took me a very long time to actually get this soldered on, just a mixture of the very cheap, sort of quite crappy lead and the fact the wires are quite short. This will be a lot easier if A, you're using the receiver with the connector that's already there, or B, you don't have the solders already, you don't have the pins already soldered in to begin with, and you're just soldering it straight onto the pads or through the holes in the board. But eventually we did get there. I also changed the XT30 connector for 2 3.5mm bullets. For the batteries I had on hand. I actually ended up changing them back to XT60s because when I bought these new graphenes from Hobby King, they all came with XT60s, which are in a way a better connector, saves you losing the little bits of fuel tube on the end, so I decided to just swap the quad to XT60. It does come with an XT30, that's not a typo or anything like that at the beginning, so more than likely you are going to want to swap that out. I also ended up actually changing the battery strap for something slightly longer. The one that comes with it is very nice quality, and you do actually get 2 more in the box. I swapped it for my own that I had on the shelf, but maybe the ones in the box are long enough for your battery. I generally just never check them. They may all be the same size, I don't know. Once that's done, I did bind the radio and my receiver together and plug the quad back into Betaflight to check my directions and set the midpoints and endpoints, both of which barely needed changing. Like, I think I went from 100 down to 98 on the endpoint, so really nice and close. Not really something that you would need to do. Maybe nowadays it is something that you don't really need to do, but back from my base flight days, you needed to do quite a lot of cocking about with that to make it work. Now, out of the box, some slightly weird setup is that channel 5 is set up so that in one direction you have disarmed and manual mode, and in the other direction is armed and air mode. I changed mine, I separated them into 2, so I actually used 6 channels. One is just an armed switch, and the other one goes between manual, which is fully manual mode, horizon, which has a self-level, mostly just for, like, in an emergency, and air mode as well, at the bottom of the switch. I also changed the settings so that the motors don't spin when armed. That's on by default. Just have a look through, I believe it's in configuration, it's just a little toggle you can turn off and on. Obviously, remembering to save and exit whenever you change anything in here. Now, that is all I changed in there. There was no PIDs changed. I didn't even go into the OSD and change the craft name, as you'll see from a video in a little while. That's literally all I did computer-wise. Didn't update the firmware that's on there or anything like that. So onto the flying. I actually started flying mine with a 1300 and 1000 mAh 4-cell 65C graphenes, the slightly older red ones that came in the fancy boxes. And to be honest, the 1300s are just too heavy. It begins wobbling when doing sharp changes in direction, and I think 1300 is just too big for this size of quad. And when I was on the 1000s, they were absolutely fine, and hence the fact I went out and bought 5 of the 1075C new graphenes. Now, the video that you're going to be seeing is from my first outing with those new graphene batteries, and also the first recording session with my new homebrew DVR session, or setup, which I will show for you in a video at some point. As you can see at the box, the OSD has the voltage for the battery in the bottom left, with the voltage going to the receiver above it, which goes a bit lower than I would like, but I believe those receivers can go down to 3 volts, so it's not really in a warning area. But it's surprising how much it can change between the flight, between like 4.2 and 3.5 it is slightly concerning, but I suppose if it's not driving servos, it doesn't really matter. Now in the bottom middle, we have the milliamps, which start flashing at 700 milliamps. I am 90% sure I didn't set this. I generally can't remember. I didn't know if I set like a 700 or 1000 thing. I think what I'm getting that confused with is when I was setting up my mini dart in iNav, or my dart, I suppose, in iNav. I'm fairly sure I never touched this, so out of the box it's set to 700 milliamps. Which with the thousands you land, you usually have 20-25% left, which is a lot better than running it down to like 2 or 3%, because that's just going to kill your batteries in no time, which, you know, these batteries are not the cheapest batteries in the world. You don't really want to be doing that. And further on as we go round to the right, that R349, I have no idea what it is. I can only presume it's something to do with my rates. I generally have no idea what that is and never saw it change, so bleh. And of course in the top right, as previously mentioned, we do have the craft name. You can change that in Betaflight. I didn't, because I was trying to make a point of I've changed as little as possible. Now, as for this flight footage, this was all filmed in manual mode, not air mode, by mistake. And as you can see, it's quick and rock solid. It really does go wherever you point it, and very quickly. Very quick indeed. Occasionally it will wobble when low on battery and you're doing very sharp turns. You may see that a little bit as we're getting like towards the 7 or beyond 700 milliamps. But when it's, you know, when it's in normal flying, it's really, really brilliant. Some of the problems I had in my original one was the fact that when you would change direction, it would just sort of sit there and wobble itself for a while. You know, it wouldn't sort of just spin around and then start going again. It would just sort of panic for a while it sorts itself out. That's not happening here at all. Diatone, from my understanding, has had a few weaker products before, mostly aimed for indoor. This is by no means an indoor machine, but like whoever they've had to tune this, unless they were very lucky in its all default settings, I don't know, I didn't check. They're incredible. It's incredibly good. It really, really, really is good. Now, in terms of this footage, I don't have any external footage of the actual kind of speed of it racing past you. If you want to see that, go check out the UAV Futures video. And those lines you can see across the screen are not in the goggles, or at least certainly they're not as noticeable. And I believe it's something more I need to sort out with my new DVR solution. It was literally, this was more of a test of those than anything else. But the batteries are also great and much better than the 65s, which are not brand new. It's not like they just came out of the box, but they haven't been used a lot. So, but yeah, these new graphenes do seem a lot better. Now, I'm not going to go fully back into mini quadding again. I can't be arsed setting up courses and things, but it really is fun to just stick a battery in and fly and have a rip about with someone who can fly in a local park where none of my planes really can. Especially with it being 3-inch, it's so small. It's hard to see. I've not lost it yet. And something that I will point out, something that's not in this script or the information I've got in front of me, is the fact that if you leave it with the motor down for more than a minute, it starts beeping. I believe it's a minute or 30 seconds. So that's really helpful to help you find what's going on. And as for those lines in the footage, again, very hard to see in the goggles, but it does actually have a filter coming off the board to help reduce that. But yeah, it really is a lot of fun. I mean, even if you're not into mini quads and not wanting to go fully hard into racing mini quads, it's fun just to experiment with, you know, especially if you've got all the gear, you know, and maybe you just need to buy a couple of batteries for it and the quad itself. Yeah, and then, you know, it really is a lot of fun. So I will leave you now with whatever flight footage I have left from my ramblings. If you are interested, there will be a link to the quad in the description, as well as the props and the batteries. Where stated, they are affiliate links, so I get a small kickback, but as I said at the beginning, this was paid out of my own money, so it is of course my own thoughts. And hopefully the videos prove that it really is as good as I say. Any wobbling in this video is 99% down to me being still quite rusty with some of this. And as well as also in the description, there will be a link to my Honey video where you can get discounts, because this does technically retail for £109, but Honey will really easily get you a 10% discount, so you can get it at £100. Now, if you have enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate if you could leave me a like, or even consider subscribing to the channel. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I will try and get back to you as soon as possible. But that is it for now. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Take me away from home. Show me all the places I've never known, and we'll chase the night, race all of these broken dreams in flight, and we'll fly. We'll fly away, away, away. Yeah, we'll up here, we're free, bound only by frozen memories, lost in time, racing all these broken dreams tonight, and we'll fly.